Welcome to Chatting with Camille, helping you share the gospel of Jesus Christ at church, home, and beyond. Today we're going to talk about teaching ideas for the lesson about our responsibilities in the work of salvation and exaltation. This lesson is typically taught on September 25th in the young men's and young women's organizations. If you are teaching just a portion of this lesson or the whole thing, let's go over some ideas where you can get your class discussing. Idea number 1, on the board, write, a servant of the Lord is ... As people come into the classroom, hand them a sticky note and invite them to finish that sentence. I love sticky notes because it's not as intimidating as speaking out loud in class or getting up and writing on the board. Plus, everybody can do it at about the same time and you can gather a lot of answers really quickly. As they finish that sentence, have them stick their note up on the board. When you're ready to get to that point of the lesson, read those answers out loud, then turn to the scriptures that are recommended in the Come Follow Me manual. They're all in Isaiah because we study Isaiah for 5 weeks. After you read those scriptures, talk about what else you would add to that sentence. A servant of the Lord is what? Some additional ideas could be a child of God, loved, supported, etc. There's really a lot in those scriptures that you read. You can go for a while and discuss this. Idea number 2, talk about baptism. And when we are baptized, we made a covenant with God to serve Him, to be an instrument in His hands. God's 2 greatest commandments are to love Him and to love others, right? We do this through the work of salvation and exaltation. What exactly is that? This is a great opportunity to turn to the handbook. The easiest way to access this part of the handbook is to go to the link in the online manual. However, it's also a great opportunity to show people where to find the handbook in the Gospel Library app. Turn to the handbook where it talks about the work of salvation and exaltation, and let's define what it is. The handbook basically says that the work of salvation and exaltation is coming unto Christ and then helping others do the same. There's hundreds of different ways to go about this. Let's talk about some of the ways that you already are. List these up on the board or just talk about them out loud. Some ideas to help you get that list going. Think about what you've already done that day. You're at church. You've probably prayed already. You've read your scriptures. You're trying to keep the commandments. You've repented because you've taken of the sacrament, right? There's already a great list of things that you've done. You can think about your week, like seminary, asking for forgiveness, etc. Great things that you do to come into Christ all the time. Take a moment and realize the great work that you're already doing. Now, let's talk about how you're helping others. List more ideas. Service, prayer, forgiving others. Maybe you shared a Bible verse on social media. You're loving people, listening to them. You shared music with somebody, whether that was playing something at church or you shared a YouTube video. There's all kinds of ways that we can help others come unto Christ as well. The church breaks it down into 4 basic ways, and this is where you're going to use that handbook again. It lists those 4 ways. Living the gospel of Jesus Christ. Number 2 is caring for those in need. Number 3 is inviting all to receive the gospel. And number 4 is uniting families for eternity. How about a little game now? We love to play games because we want to get people moving and shaking and using that brain. Games are a great way to break it up and get people thinking in new ways. Let's play Pin the Tag on the Missionary. I have a sister and an elder version for you, depending on which one you want to print out. It's just 4 pages that you tape together, then you print out the little missionary tags. For this lesson, the 4 tags that we're going to use are those 4 things we just listed under the work of salvation and exaltation. Print as many tags as you're going to need for the amount of people that are typically in your class. Put all the missionary tags out on the table upside down. You shuffle them up so you don't know what is what. Somebody picks a tag, they read what's on the tag, and then they have to give a specific example of how they can then go about accomplishing that work. For example, they drew living the gospel of Jesus Christ. They cannot say read the scriptures. They have to say something more specific. Maybe it's how they read their scriptures, what part of the scriptures they're reading. Maybe it's a specific come follow me activity that they do in their family, but it needs to be a specific example because we don't want to just do general, they don't really relate to me examples. We want to see how we can really do our responsibilities in the work of salvation. Okay, specific examples. Obviously, they can phone a friend if they get stuck. That's okay. Idea number 3, get a tool out that has multiple different parts to it that you can put together, like a screwdriver that you can put different heads on. This one you could put a Phillips head, a flat head, different sizes and widths, etc. And they all work beautifully. Each one of these is needed for a different project. Each one of these is helpful. If I use a flat head when I should use a Phillips head, it might be possible, but it's not going to go as well as I need it to. The Phillips head would really make the job much easier. All of the parts of the screwdriver are wanted and needed, and I want the right thing for the right place at the right time. Just like we all are needed. We each have our own unique talents, and the Lord wants to use our own unique ways to fulfill his purposes. Talents can be somewhat of a tricky topic sometimes because there's always people that don't think they have talents, but every single person has a talent. You might want to read some out loud and have people just ponder what ones they might have, and they can write them down. Or you can read some scriptures about talents and spiritual gifts, but every single person has one. Think about ways that you can use your own specific talent to further the work of the Lord. Some talents are really easy to figure out, and some are a little bit harder. For example, at first I had no idea how to use my talent of making games in order to further the work of the Lord. But guess what? It's totally possible, and I do it through my gospel games all the time now. Brainstorm ways that you can use your talents together. If somebody doesn't know how to use their talent of playing soccer to further the work of the Lord, brainstorm together and figure it out. Idea number 4. This is a great opportunity to talk about patriarchal blessings. I recommend doing it as often as you can because youth, you can have one, you deserve one. If you're looking to better understand your talents or your purpose in life, ask to set up a patriarchal blessing interview. If you already have your patriarchal blessing, study it. Look for those talents and gifts that the Lord has pointed out that you have. Look for those responsibilities the Lord has given you and how you can go about doing the work of salvation and exaltation because of the things that you know in your patriarchal blessing. If you don't have one, go get one. I totally recommend it. It's a great guide for your life. Idea number 5, gather some baby photos. If you don't have time to gather everybody in your class, maybe just do the leaders of your class. Put them up on the board. You guys can play a quick game of guess who it is. Then talk about all the things that they have learned since they've been a baby. The obvious things such as eating and walking, etc. But also the different paths that they may have taken in life. Like this person learned how to play basketball, but this person learned how to watercolor. This person is a great hiker, etc. Talk about those different paths as well as the similar paths that they have taken and the things that they have learned along the way because of them, and the different talents and things that we have developed because of our different paths. Then, because General Conference is coming up the very next week, you can talk about the prophets and apostles and how they have developed different talents and skills as well because of the things they've learned. These are apostle tube dolls. They each have a little bit about each person and their interest in things that they have done in their lives. Or you can grab the coloring pages instead, which have clues to some of the things that they have learned and developed as well. Talk about how all of the apostles have different talents and skills, but they're all apostles. They can relate to these people in different ways, and they can do the Lord's work because of their different paths and because of their talents in those different ways. Continue to talk about how you as a class all have different talents and what you can do to bring those talents together and to do the work of salvation and exaltation together as a class. This is a great opportunity to maybe turn it over to the class president and help them lead this part of the discussion. Lastly, I wanted to point out that President Russell M. Nelson in the last General Conference and the very last talk that he gave said the following: "My prayer is that the Spirit has spoken to you directly about the things the Lord would have you do. If you still do not know what the Lord would have you do, especially when it comes to your responsibilities in the work of salvation and exaltation, ask and then listen for the answer and prepare yourself for General Conference weekend. Listen for that answer the whole weekend. Keep praying for that answer. Then go back and reread General Conference all over again. You will find that answer as you continue to open yourself up to the Spirit of the Lord and listen. How can you be the Lord's servant today?" Those are just 5 ways that you can get the discussion going in your class. I'll put links in the show notes for any of those printables, like the pin the tag on the missionary. Tune in next time for a great faith-filled story. Chat with you next time. Come discover more gospel fun at cknscratch.com.